Hello again. I'm Henry T. What a pleasure. I mean, an absolute pleasure to be with you today. And a pleasure to still be doing the work that I love. People say, Henry, the R word. Come on, man, retirement. What is that? Don't even ignite that fire in me that you're going to get punched in the nose if you bring that R word up to me again. I can't even conceive of not doing my creative work. I'll do it forever because there's always a story and always a story to be done well. And I reach down, I keep finding more creativity and the will to work and a different way to do a story. I'm not even near it. And I'll give you a little hint. Another comeback in Henry T is that close. Because you know why? Because I have the opportunity of getting remotivated, regenerated, re-inspired by friends of mine like I have on today. Jim Ciccarello, considered one of the top track and field coaches in the world, not just Albuquerque, not just New Mexico, not just the United States, but I mean globe to one side of globe to the other in the world. Jim Ciccarello, known throughout the world. He's with us today, the head track coach at the Cueva High School. My pleasure. And an inductee into the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame. His resume's that long. That'd take me an hour to do. But let's go to Jim right now. And we call him Chick. Coach Chick, how are you, buddy?
Good morning, Henry. I'm doing great. Alive, chicken. I'm good.
Man, it's so good to have you on. I get fired up just having you on the screen because I know the fire that builds in you and the way you express it out there at La Cueva High School.
I'm ready to get you on the track. I want to see you do some running.
Let's
Take you
go.
out to that brand new track at La Cueva High School and get you to run some repeats.
Man, hey, show me how to jump rope first.
You know? Jump rope, the greatest warm up of all time. What?
I think he hit his audio
Hey,
button. There you
want
go.
to get better? Jump rope. And you can run and jump rope at the same time, Henry.
Wow. Well, in fact, we just talked about him, Muhammad Ali.
Well, that's
He
where it all
jump
started.
roped for his versatility, not just endurance, not just to get in shape, but so he'd have quick hands and quick feet. And he was like a dancer in the ring, and he credited it to jump rope.
Well, I've been teaching jump rope for like 40 years. And the last 25 years, I've taken it to a high level. And I really believe any athlete in any sport should use jump rope to make themselves better. And the coaches that aren't using it are missing out. I put on seminars with tennis teams and football teams and basketball teams, and some coaches they swear on it. I went up to Los Alamos and I did for a cross country team up there with Ron and Kathy Hipwood, and I'll tell you what, they said that was the greatest thing they ever seen. And now when I go to a meet, I see them warming up with a jump rope, and I know that we made an impact, and they get it. That jump rope makes you a better athlete.
Wow. Well, I've seen your jump rope exhibitions down in the pit. I've seen them in person. Spectacular show, coach.
Well, it ain't just a showtime. What we do at the pit is with our little kids, our age groupers, and they're doing tricks and they're doing things where normal people can't do with a jump rope. But the athletes that are in track and field or basketball or football, they need to do speed stuff. Speed. You got to be able to move a rope fast and control your body and have fast hands and fast feet. So I'm a believer in speed.
Coach, normally you'd be out there every day, and I wouldn't doubt if you're out there today anyway. But schools are not normal right now. It's not a normal educational environment now. You can't literally go on campus. Kids are getting their education via Zoom, computer. They don't walk down the hallways yet. How different has it been for the athlete, for the student athlete? How, in fact, have they been affected not being able to socialize, not being able to participate in athletics like they normally do? What has been the effect on the student athlete?
Well, it's a lot worse than people think. There are athletes out there right now that are in depression. And a lot of kids, I was kind of like that. When I was in school, a lot of kids, athletics and activities are so important to them that their academics get better because they're an athlete. And some of these kids are starting to fall through the cracks, is that they want to get motivated for academics and athletics at the same time, and they're missing out on the athletic part. And some of them are just not getting the job done, and they're depressed, and their parents are depressed. And this COVID-19 has really shook up our society. And APS and New Mexico Athletics, and track and field, and tennis, cross country, volleyball, you can go on and on. All of them are suffering because of this.
I know that you're a fair man, you're objective, but you know your position, and you've got a kind heart. And others in your position feel like going up to Santa Fe and giving the governor a little speech and have the governor come over to your side with maybe a forceful speech. But you're a gentleman, but yet you have those deep feelings protecting your kids. I know there's a message inside of you, and I'm sure it'll come out polite and respectful. But if today you have the opportunity to be in the room at the Roundhouse in Santa Fe, face to face with the governor of New Mexico, what would you tell her representing your kids?
Well, I think she already knows the value of athletics. I'll be honest with you. A lot of people think she doesn't, but she does. And she knows the value of activities in the public schools. What she's fighting right now is trying to keep people healthy. This COVID-19 has been a disaster for everybody across the country and in the state of New Mexico. And every state is doing something different. Now, I believe that things are going to start opening up pretty quick, and the governor is going to change their mind a little bit. And there are a lot of parents out there and a lot of administrators and athletes that want some changes. And I predict in the next month or so that things are going to change a little bit because the COVID-19 rate is going down. The vaccine rate is going up. It's getting less dangerous to have activities and group meetings and gatherings. And I know that the governor wants to keep things healthy, but we got to be mentally healthy too. And so you get people doing the things they love, they're going to have a better chance to be mentally healthy and physically healthy, and they're going to do the things that help contribute to society and keep kids engaged. We got to keep kids engaged in schools, and I predict that in the next month or so, there's some major changes coming between the PED, the Public Education Department, and the schools here in Albuquerque and across the state. It's kind of complicated right now. A lot of people don't understand what's going on.
Give us a little education on the terminology being used. A student at home learning on computer and, of course, in-person learning. How is that looking? How is it working presently, in your opinion?
I could just go by my opinion, and I talk to teachers all the time. I've observed teachers teaching online, And some of it's pretty good, and some of it maybe not so. Uh, I think teachers are trying real hard to teach kids online via camera, like what you and I are doing right now. And a lot of those kids are motivated and doing real well. I think teachers are motivated. Teachers want their kids to do well. It's not the same as in-house learning. In-house learning is you're close to the kids, you touch them, you get them motivated, and some kids need that. Some kids do well with uh, virtual learning, where they're watching a TV screen like we're doing right now, and other kids don't. Their attention span is different, and they just can't get it done. And the best form of teaching is when you're one-on-one or one-on-five, one-on-10, whatever, and you got them all in the classroom. Some kids are falling through the cracks. Some kids are failing, and they just can't handle it. They need that human being across from them to motivate them. I think that virtual learning is good for some people and not others. That's the bottom line, and we're going to pay a price for it sooner or later. You know, the main thing is that COVID-19 has got to keep going down because people have to be healthy. And if you know anybody that ever died, you know, 2 track coaches died in Albuquerque this last year from COVID-19. COVID-19 come up, they had a couple other issues, and they passed away. So COVID-19 is real. And I know the governor is trying to keep people healthy and keep them from dying. Uh, and I think that we need to adjust week after week after week. And it's not the same as it was 6 months ago. I think it's starting to clear up. And I really believe personally that in the next month, we'll see some major changes and you're going to see athletes get back on the field.
Wow. Well, you can't do track and field. You can't pole vault virtually. You can't high jump. You can't run the hurdles on the computer. So, for the real diehard athlete out there, what happens to their endurance? What happens to their skill level? Because they're not doing it every day.
You know, us coaches, whatever sport they coach or activities, by the way, we're talking about activities too. We're talking about cheerleading, we're talking about band, we're talking about all athletics and activities that kids do, is that the sponsors of those events are keeping in touch with kids and trying to motivate them by their phone, by email, and get them to stay in shape, to get them to do these activities and not lose hope and try and find a way to do the thing that makes them the happy the most. Uh, I'm on my phone every day asking kids, did you get over on your own? Did you run some hills? Have you run some 200s? Uh, I'm trying to keep kids involved in track and field myself to where when we start up again, that we can start and not be too far behind where we could catch up. But for some kids, they just can't do that. Some kids have turned it off and they're sitting at home watching TV. They're not doing much. But coaches and all over the state, coaches are still trying by phone and email to get kids involved.
Wow. But there will be an effect for those who are not motivated, who are not going through their
Yeah,
regimen of workouts as you recommend. If they
right.
don't do it, they're going to come back and be way behind,
Wait
obviously.
a minute. Some kids that are self-motivated, and those kids that are self-motivated, they continue to work out on their own. They go to a park, they go to a track, they go to a gym, they go somewhere and they work out. I know who they are. And then some of the other kids that are going through the cracks, they're going to be so far behind when their season starts, they may not catch up. And we're starting to realize how important coaches and teachers are. Teachers and coaches motivate kids to do things, and sometimes that self-motivation is not there. Self-motivation comes from outside motivation mostly. Once you're motivated by an activity outside, and then you bring it into yourself, then you become a self-motivated person. And sometimes those kind of kids don't need anybody telling them what to do. They just do it. But other kids, or people, not just kids, but adults, they fall through the cracks and it gets away from them.
Yeah. You know, athletes, especially track and field athletes, the word sacrifice, from what I've seen as a broadcaster over the year, all athletes sacrifice. It takes hard work to excel in any sport. But my buddy Ron Maestas up there at Highlands University, who built a nationally respected championship track and field team from ground zero. You've done it. Some of the most heartbreaking stories I've seen from sacrifice. Ron Maestas had his Highlands Cowboy athletes in a little van. They traveled around the country eating bologna sandwiches, apples, and what is sack lunch, and they brought home national championships. I've
Mhm.
seen you develop athletes from scratch and made them state championships. Your history, where you've been, what you've done, you've had some remarkable athletes, remarkable teams. If you don't mind to capsulize where you've come as a track and field coach and bring out a couple of your most outstanding stories, if you don't mind. Give me one or two.
Well, I go back to the 60s, and I was a young puppy dog myself then. I was full of vinegar, and I still had a lot of energy. I try and keep my attitude correct today, but my body can't do today what it used to be able to do. And I used to be able to run with kids and run backwards. I used to be able to demonstrate high jumping over a bar. Way back in the day in the 60s, I'm going to go back a little bit, is that I was a PE teacher at Lowell Elementary School, and Val Boyer was a 10-year-old, and 1969, and she was on the playground with a bunch of other kids just running around. And I like working with little kids. I like watching them develop. I've always been a frame of mind. You take kids at the level they're at, and then you try and take them to a higher level, no matter where you're at. So Val just kept working real hard. I worked with the Duke City Dashers. I worked with the Albuquerque Track Club. But basically, I was an elementary PE teacher and just having her run around the playground and race other kids. And then I started discovering different techniques of track and field. I used to run a little bit of track and field, but I just started discovering techniques of teaching track and field and how kids do repeats and how they get better. And Val just kept getting better and better. And she started out as an 800-meter runner, and then she became a 400-meter runner and a sprinter. And by the time she was 16, after about 6 years doing age group stuff, she was the best runner in the state of New Mexico, and she never got beat by a New Mexican, never. And she went on and ran high school, was undefeated in high school, set records in the 100, the 200, the 400 relays, and then she was able to make a USA team in 1978, and she made the World Cup. And in the World Cup, she was on a 4x1 relay to set a world record running for the United States. She Val Boyer, and her last name is Wells, Val Boyer Wells. I'm so proud of her, and to this day, I still have contact with her. She's a grandma now, and every time I go to Phoenix, I visit with her. Uh, she was so amazing, and everybody looked up to her and followed her. So, she was one of my bright spots. Sandy Beach from Valley High School was another bright spot. She was a state champion at Valley High School. She went to Arizona State, was All American. Margaret Metcalf, when I coached at Manzano and Albuquerque Track Club, she went on and she jumped 5'11", high jump, made a USA team, and she went and won a major AAU meet for the USA against the Russians, and she was so excited about that. And then later on, I had an age grouper that turned out pretty good. Curtis Beach, he started as a 10-year-old, and then he went on and he just got into the multi events, and he ran the hurdles and high jump and long jump. And then he went to the Albuquerque Academy. He worked with Coach Kedge at the Albuquerque Academy, and I was continuing to work with him on the side in the club. I've always been a high school and a club coach. I've been both. I started out in the club and then I went to the high school. Now, normally when my kids get to the high school level, whatever high school they go to, I just let them go. I don't coach them anymore. The high school coach takes over. But then in the summertime and after they get out of high school, sometimes I still coach and get involved. And he went on to Duke University and he was the NCAA champion at Duke. And then he made a couple international teams. So those are just several that I keep in contact with, and they did great. But I'm very proud of the kids that I have today. I like working with young people, people you never heard of, people that I think have a future in the next few years. I'm a high school coach now, coach at La Cueva High School. I've coached at Highland. I've coached at Manzano, coached at Sandia High School. This is my fourth stop. This is my longest stop. And I love the administration, the athletes at La Cueva High School. And I can't wait to see ninth graders that are just learning track and field and see where we can take them. And right now, I'm doing it by phone, like I'm talking
Word,
to you.
word is out that you've got a great hurdler by the name of Lucero who is itching to get back to practice. If you don't mind sharing the great news about this wonderful athlete I keep hearing about, give us the scoop, chick.
Well, before COVID-19 hit last year, we had a regular track practice and we were preparing for a regular track season. And, we had a ninth grader come out there. Her dad was a former Olympic trial athlete, uh, University of Missouri, I believe. And then he's from Las Cruces. He was a high jumper. He was sent by. He has a daughter named Sima Lucero. And right away, I tested her in the high jump, and she did well in the high jump. And then I just brought her over to hurdles. I said, "Would you like to try this?" Because I noticed that she had a lot of speed. So Sima Lucero has developed into quite a hurdler already. And a lot of my coaching is done by phone. And last spring, we were getting ready to go to the very first track meet, which was going to be in Rio Rancho at Cleveland High School. And Cleveland has a really good hurdler. So they were going to hit heads up right off the bat on the first meet of the year. And the day before we were getting ready to go over there, all of a sudden at track practice, I get a phone call from my athletic director, Leanne Moore, and she said, "Coach, the season is over. Hasn't started, but you're going to have to tell the kids that they have to go home." And it was going to be a great matchup. Her first hurdle event was going to be against a Cleveland High School girl who was pretty good, and it never happened. And so she hasn't really run the hurdles. She's also a soccer kid, and we won't know until everything opens up again and she gets to run. But personally, I think she's going to be one of the better athletes in New Mexico.
Coach, that brings up a subject matter that is very sensitive out there. There's a lot of youngsters, seniors in particular, that won't have their senior year of competition. College coaches can't recruit them. They were looking forward to getting a scholarship. And now it looks like more than likely they will not because they could not compete their senior year. Have you seen that? Do you know the effect on that particular issue?
That's a pretty big issue. Yeah. You know, let's talk about athletes as a whole. Athletes develop at different levels. And some athletes don't develop until they're 18, 17, 18. And a lot of times that's their senior year. And that's when they could have had their best performance ever. And yet they didn't have that because of COVID-19, their senior year. And college coaches always look at what you did. When they're recruiting, the better you do, the better they recruit. That's just the way it is. The kids that have the best times, the better stats, they get the better scholarships. Now, there are some kids out there going to get scholarships anyway. Their parents are going to help them. They're going to go online. They're going to let people know what's out there. But as far as the kids that need their senior year, if they don't go out there and run that fast 100 or high jump that 7-foot high jump, college coaches ain't going to know what they do. And they're going to be looking around at people that are doing it. And people are doing it in other states right now. They're having track meets. I was online yesterday looking. They're having track meets all over the country, and not having any in New Mexico.
Mm.
And people are playing football in other places, and they're not playing it here. So New Mexico's going to be a little bit behind, and some of those seniors that develop late and mature late in life don't get to show what they could do as an 18-year-old that they couldn't do as a 16-year-old. That's my point. Some people mature later, and their senior year is important because of that.
Wow. Jim Ciccarello, ladies and gentlemen. When I was a little kid growing up across the ditch banks at Valley High School, he was a big Valley Viking star. I mean, big star. Basketball star, point guard, fast, quick as an alley cat, track and field star. Oh man, Chick was the hit. Later, after all his accomplishments as a teacher, as a coach, he's been inducted into the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame and well deserving of that honor. Chick, you have been blessed as an athlete, as an educator, as a coach, and then to be enshrined with your picture down at the convention center, inducted into the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame. How does that beautiful night in your career stack up?
Well, Henry, you have a way in words. That's all I got to say. uh, I thank you for saying those things. But to be honest with you, when I was a high school athlete, I was just a, average to good athlete. I was never really outstanding. The athletes that I coached, they turned out to be because they had more talent. They had physical talent, and they turned out to be great athletes. And they were all I had to do was get them involved and motivate them. And I think the reason they voted me in is to the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame because they realized that coaching and teaching is just as important as being an athlete, and that we need to recognize people that help young people achieve their dreams. And that's kind of what I did. When I was at Valley, I was okay. I was a pretty good basketball player, but I wasn't like any of the players I have today or the last few years. Uh, but I know when I got out of UNM and I started teaching, I knew that I could make a difference in kids' lives by being the greatest or the best teacher I could be. And that's how I got in there. And to me, that night that I got inducted into the Hall of Fame, I got inducted in there because I was a teacher and coach. Uh, my athletic stats themselves weren't that good. I tell you what, I had a lot of kids that developed and turned out pretty good. Now, whether they would have done that without me or with me, I'm not sure. Probably they would have done it anyway. But I did spend a lot of time with those kids, and the people at the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame have recognized coaches and teachers and educators, and that's how I got in there. And that night that I was in the Hall of Fame was one of the greatest nights ever. I will never forget that night. And the deal was that a lot of people came that night. A lot of my former students were there, and they were all ages. They were in their 50s and 40s and 30s and 20s. Uh, this generation I'm coaching now, they weren't even born at that time. And so, the Hall of Fame became a very important thing to me, but that's not the, the most important thing ever. Working with kids every day and trying to make them better is what's important to me. Is that people say, "What's the greatest kid you ever coached?" And I say, "Well, it's that next one, that one that's coming tomorrow that I've never met. I don't even know his or her name."
Wow.
That's the way my attitude has been, is that to keep moving forward in the future, and it's not over yet. And I want to just keep going. But yeah, to answer your question, that was a fantastic night.
Coach, in our final minute, the satisfaction feeling when you wake up in the morning and retire at the end of the day, and all the work you do as a teacher in the classroom, out on the track, you put in hundreds of extra hours every day. What's in it for you when it's all said and done? What is your legacy?
I've been asked that before. I always tell people my legacy is the fact that I went long, that I worked with so many kids for so long. I want people to remember that, you know, Ciccarello wasn't that good an athlete. But I tell you what, he sure did put in a lot of time, hours and hours and days and weeks and months and years. And I've had a lot of athletes in my life, and I keep going. And when you ask me what I think my legacy is, it's the fact that I had a long legacy, that I went for a long time and worked with a lot of kids. I tried to add them all up one day and figure out how many kids I've worked with, like one-on-one or one-on-two, and somewhere around 60,000 kids over,
Gee,
yeah, 53-year career. 53
wow.
years old. I've been at 4 different high schools. I've been at 3 different age group clubs. I've been at 5 different elementary schools. And so I put in a lot of time. That's the bottom line. And I like people who say, well, Ciccarello at least did something while he was on this earth. He worked with some kids and he helped them. He never high jumped 7 foot. He never scored 50 points in a Lobo game. He never did any of that. But he had a couple of kids that did pretty good, didn't he? And I kind of like
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll have another chapter of Jim Ciccarello, and the beloved Chick will be with us again in the near future. But all I can tell you about Chick personally, I'm so happy he's my friend and that I've had the opportunity to talk to him, visit, chat, laugh, tell stories, and watch him work. Wow, what an honor to have Jim Ciccarello on my show today. Chick, thank you, buddy.
that. Henry, it's always a pleasure to be on your show and talk to you because you inspire people out there in New Mexico. And I know that's what your show is about, inspiring people to do better.
God bless you, buddy. We'll talk to you again soon.
Maybe when that track season gets going, maybe we'll get somebody to do something good and you'll say, hey, coach, come on the show. Tell us about what happened.
And no matter where they come from, ladies and gentlemen, they always call him Coach. What a great word. What a great name. What do you think, Chick, when they call you Coach?
Well, coach is a very endearing term, very endearing. A coach is a person that spends maybe a little bit more time than a teacher with individuals to make them better. And most athletes have great memories of their coaches, whether they're elementary, mid school, high school, college, whatever. They do. They always remember their coach.
Right.
And I kind of like being that category.
Coach, Coach will talk to you in the near future. Thank you.
All right, Henry, you have a great show. And hopefully these New Mexico athletes are going to get back on the track and back on the tennis court, wherever they're at. And we're going to see something happen this spring. My fingers are crossed.
Amen, buddy. Take care.
All right, we'll see you, Henry.
Wow, the great Jim Ciccarello. They call him Chick, but mostly they call him Coach. Coming up in a couple of minutes, we have another inspiring coach. Today's Henry T. Show, I'll tell you, racks and Amastroid Drywall and Ben Lucero at Indigo Mortgage, Kevin out there at his business. Man, we got people supporting this show. And Chuck Jackson, Action Jackson, Compaction. Thank you guys for helping us here on this show. And Kevin out there at the canteen. Kevin, God bless you. Good morning and welcome to the Henry T. Show. Now we go up to Sandia High School. I did some travels up and down those highways several years ago. And Henry T's name might be on a couple of trophies here and there. I hope so. But we have a gentleman coming on right now, young coach, aggressive, fired up. And now he's a coach who's turned broadcaster. And he's the color commentary on Lobo baseball games right now. I heard him the other day and I said, wow, he loves it. He loves kids. And right now he's in the midst of the same battles that Coach Chick is, trying to dodge this COVID, trying to get his kids to work hard, to study and do whatever is called upon them. His name is Chris Eaton, one of the great athletes ever at Sandia Prep, and he's the head baseball coach at Sandia High School. Let's bring on Chris Eaton right now. Chris, good morning, buddy. How are you?
Good morning, Henry. Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure talking with you.
Hey, I heard you on the air the other day, the color commentary for the baseball Lobos. Wow, man, you were great. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I always feel like if you want to know how something's done, you ask somebody who's done it. And Henry, you're a Hall of Famer. Any advice for doing this on radio, calling games? What's your best advice?
Just be Chris. Just be the fun-loving Chris with all that passion in your voice, and it comes out because you played the game at Sandia Prep. You played in college. Man, you've been in the athletic fire. And you've got credibility that won't quit. Keep it up, Chris.
Thanks, Henry. It's an honor and to have Coach Birmingham ask me personally and threw my name out there and just I'd do anything for Coach B. So it's the least I can do, and I get to watch the Lobos play.
Wow. Hey, I drive by your field every day at Sandia High School, and it's empty. I want to see kids out there. I want to see umpires. Man, I want to see big crowds like you always draw at your beautiful field. When will we see that normalcy again?
I think you'll see those kind of crowds likely next year. This year, those crowds will probably have to be sitting on the hoods of cars and the back of pickup trucks from behind the fence or watching from on top of the walls out behind the outfield. We're hoping that there are at least maybe a family member or two that can attend and watch their child play. So we're hoping that will happen. I have no doubt we're playing baseball this year. It's just when we can get that green light sometime to have a full practice. And we've been very, very disciplined with the pods we're doing right now with our team. And we're just hoping that next month we need to see one of our colleges play a home game. That's the first step. We're not coming back as a high school until UNM or New Mexico State or any one of our local colleges at the Division II or junior college level plays a home game. So we're very, very hopeful that at least maybe one of these baseball programs is the first to do that. Lobo baseball or New Mexico State baseball.
How has that affected your team, your individual players, your coaching staff? How has it affected you? But what's been the overall effect?
Everybody is hurting. Everybody's sad right now. Everybody's struggling with being unable to play right now. And we've been patient. We've waited a full year. And we are also trying to compete with Arizona, with Texas, because the kids that want opportunities to play after high school, and we're not even talking scholarships, just the opportunity to play, even our local schools, Mexico Highlands, Eastern New Mexico, they're recruiting regionally and nationally. So our local kids are having to compete with kids in Phoenix and Dallas for roster spots here in New Mexico, and they haven't stopped. They've been playing. They're in school. They're practicing. So we're falling behind by the second. And that's why it's so critical that we're doing everything we can to work with our kids on our own campus. At the moment, that's a very restrictive process. There's a lot of forms. There's a lot of check-in procedures that we're learning and practicing. And yet, if they're not here with us as a school coach, they can walk into their clubs and academies and they don't have any of those rules necessarily. Certainly our state COVID guidelines, yet they have the freedom to still practice and work out. And then here, Henry, this is what it comes down to. If you're a kid that doesn't have the money and you can't afford that, then you're really being left behind. And that gap is starting to separate more and more every day. And that's what was so difficult for me is to see that and see those kids that desperately need the service that we offer as a public school, whether it's in-person learning or the opportunity to be involved in athletics and activities. If we can't offer that, then it'll just become entirely privatized, and you either have money and you can do it, or you don't, and you will not be able to participate. That's what's happening right now.
How many athletes do you have that were leaning and hoping and praying to be recruited by a Division I school or any division to go play college baseball, to get an education because of their athletic attributes? How many kids do you have like that right now that their dream will be missed because of this crisis that we're in right now?
We feel like that's our whole program, that every single kid that wants to be a Sandia Matador, your goal is to play college baseball on some level, and then hopefully potentially to play professionally. And this is my fourth year. It's the fourth year with this class that we've come up together with. So we all know Jacob Kamatz and Aiden May and what some of these guys have done to show that, hey, these opportunities that kids in New Mexico never had, no one's ever signed with Oregon State before, that it's possible. It can happen here if you come to our program, and that we provide these opportunities, because that's bottom line why I do this, is to help these kids move on. We're just one step in their development. We're one level. And if we can lay a foundation for them, it's going to help them not just in athletics, but any walk of life. So when kids all have that same goal of, hey, we all want to play after high school, play in college. Okay, let me help educate you on how good you have to be and how great of a student, what your grades have to look like to have those opportunities. And for us to have the setback we've had, I look at it as another challenge. We're so tough that if we can make it through this, truly we can make it through anything. And we're seeing already, we had Matt Romero, our senior left-handed pitcher. He was committed to UNM. They're bringing back their entire team because of COVID. No one's losing any eligibility. So now there's no openings for the high school seniors. You know, instead of, hey, 10 seniors graduated, now that spot's open. Instead, there's that log jam. And luckily, we try to put our kids in a position with their grades and obviously their talent level, that you'll have an opportunity somewhere, someplace. And luckily, we have 3 signed. We still have 4 seniors that are looking, and they're hustling, they're emailing, they're doing everything they need to do. And we feel like when we start playing, they'll have that opportunity to be seen, be noticed. And unfortunately, we've got a whole program of about 50, 60 kids that want to try out and play. And I want to offer that to them as well. And it's been difficult because we're doing limited groups and we want to incorporate everybody. And it's a challenge to try to reach all the kids the same.
How do you express, or how are they expressing the heartbreak to you that they're not out there playing? They can't run. They don't use that beautiful glove. They can't have that feeling of ripping the baseball up the middle. They love the game, but they can't have it right now. Express their heartbreak, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, it's how do you explain that? Because it's about the kids, right? Every single thing that has gone on since last March, when the pandemic shut our sports down, and it's been about the kids and how can we help them? How can we get them through this challenging time in the world? And what does that look like from us? And when we lose sight of that, and it's not about the kids, we're serving other agendas or interest groups, that's what breaks my heart. Is every single resource and bit of energy should be invested on how can we help these kids get back in school, get back on the field. Because yeah, you drive by, you see our field. I mean, we're so fortunate, lucky with our facilities that I just want them on there, even if we're not doing a whole lot or we can't have a real practice at the moment. Just being out there and making it easier for that to happen. I think the protocols in place are there for a reason, and it's a matter of practicing them. We talked about that when I was on your show last semester in the fall. We just need the opportunity to practice these new COVID safe protocols. You're going to be playing in a mask. You're going to be having to implement some different things that we can do it. We just need the opportunity to try it. And these kids that are waiting, I hope that they are doing something on their own time. That's what I've been telling them. If you don't have a club ball or an academy to go to right now. There's things you can do at home to build strength. Hopefully you have a partner to at least play catch with, because your arm strength is your most important skill as a baseball player. And if you don't, I have kids that have told me, I just get a bucket of balls, coach, and I'm going and throwing into a net, or I'm throwing off a wall. And I'm like, hey, if you're doing at least that, I promise you, you will see the benefit and the investment that you're putting in right now when we finally can get you on the field. And just like Coach said earlier, how about how many of those kids aren't, and they're on the video games all night. They've lost motivation and interest in school right now. They feel like the adults have let them down and they don't have faith anymore in the system. That's where I'm really telling them, hey, everyone else is upset. Everybody else is really angry right now. We have to keep our heads down and work hard, control what we can. Let me fight for you. I'm doing everything possible on my end to be a voice for our kids, our families, and we're going to get you on the field. It's a matter of time. It's going to happen.
How about the socialization? Kids saying hi to other kids in the commons at Sandia High School. How you doing? Shaking hands, having lunch together. How much is that missed? That's just basic. Saying hi to people. Is that having a negative reaction? Will it have a negative effect on the development of these young kids later or immediately in their future?
The social aspect is likely the most important part of all this. And that's how kids develop and grow and learn to just have a communication, have a conversation with an adult and a teacher. And certainly they're not even practicing that right now. So and I've seen that in some of my classes where, you know, I try talking to the kids, where I try to encourage them to speak to each other, whether we do Google breakout rooms or it's just on the live meeting as a class. And I'm already seeing the anxieties, the struggles with learning how to even have a conversation with somebody, how do you make friends? How do you even go about communicating with your teacher? Because right now, all it is telling them, this is how you learn how to send emails. This is how you need to, write something. How do you just have a professional conversation with someone? And this is a skill that we try to teach all of our players, because when you're going to be emailing baseball coaches, college coaches, there's a way you have to write them and get your point across, your message for them to understand. So that way, again, we're trying to get that opportunity for kids and help them with that communication piece. And think of those elementary school kids, those young kids, where being around others, laughing, playing, and learning how to just be a human, it feels like it's been removed and taken away. And we were told when we didn't know what was going on, it's for your safety. It's for your own good we're doing this. Now it's reached a point where, like, it's been a year. Our governor said we can come back to school. By all accounts, if we follow these COVID guidelines, we should be able to have school and kids, in the gym safely. And they desperately need that just as much as anything. And from the limited groups we've had on campus, that, from what I've seen, is the biggest mental benefit, is just seeing them around each other, talking, laughing, and that feeling that, oh my gosh, like, wow, I didn't realize how much I needed that, but mentally I feel so much better. It's like, that's exactly what the adults need to hear.
If you had the opportunity in a positive environment, the governor is right in front of you, and you're carrying a message from your kids out of your dugout, out of your classroom right there, to the governor of the state of New Mexico. And it's coming out of your heart, very composed, very uplifting. What's your message to the governor of the state of New Mexico today, if you have the opportunity?
My message to her is, she's done a great job with everything in our state. She did not expect that there was a pandemic that she would have to manage and help our state get through. And she's done the best she can. And she's doing everything. And I was really happy to see that she had publicly come out and said that APS needs to come back to school. That was outstanding. We were really happy to see that. And just to tell her that I cannot speak for the other sports. I don't coach the other sports. I just know that when it comes to the spring sports, especially baseball, those are the safest sports we can play during a pandemic right now. If there's any sports that are to be hosted for competition and participation, baseball, we're outdoors, softball, track, golf, tennis, we're outdoors, we can keep distance. You look at a playing field with positions, everybody's spread out 20 to 40 feet. And to just bring back some hope, to have the opportunity to show everyone else we can do this safely. And we feel like we've been doing that this whole entire time, that we've been demonstrating that as such, that we are doing following the guidelines, working in pods, limited groups. We're doing it safely, haven't had any problems. And I think she understands that. I think she believes in it, and she's doing what she needs to do to help us get back in school. And understanding, I think now, Henry, we're seeing, and we know it because we've been in sports our whole lives, how important activities, band, ROTC, those are in the same boat we are. How important those are to kids in a school, because that's the front porch. I mean, that is the first thing you see when you think of a school. Oh, how are their sports? And it's not that we want special treatment. It's no, there's a responsibility that comes from, being the image, being the first thing you see when you hear about a school. So you want to represent what we do accordingly. And our program, grades come first for us. I mean, we're all about school first. So, and we've been in school. So we're not saying let us play and take us out of school. No, keep us in school however it needs to look. It's activities and sports might be the only thing that connects kids to academics. And that's why it's so critical we allow that and bring them back. And then, we can talk about this for hours, Henry. Competition is like breathing air and not being allowed to compete. At some point, and we've, kids have already been doing, they're traveling. It's like, if we cannot compete here, it's like breathing air. We're going to go compete somewhere regardless. We would just prefer to stay here because it's safer and we don't have to travel to go do it. So I think, especially coming up in March, something will be playing here in New Mexico, because our season in baseball, before we know it, we're starting April 5th. And practice is the best way to make sure we're not injured. We need to practice to get our kids back into playing shape. Sure, we want to play games. Practice, though, is where you truly get better and work on your craft.
So that's the targeted date, the somewhat promised date that you'll be back on the field. April 5th?
April 5th is when we are scheduled to start our season. That's the day we'll have tryouts. That's the day we'll have our first official practice with a team. And so until then, we would love to have a real practice, because that'll just help us prepare, especially, like I said, for injuries and making sure we're healthy before we just jump into games. And as far as right now, everything's good to go. We're not being pushed out. Baseball season has not been messed with. Really, spring sports, we haven't been altered at all. And when the NMA announced the new seasons last year, we liked that we were starting in April. We felt like that was plenty of time to let things play out, make sure everything's in place. So we're ready. We've had a year to prepare. That's plenty of time to make sure we're ready, and we're ready. And we've been excited for this opportunity. So I think we'll see next month in March. Again, Lobo baseball, New Mexico State baseball. One of these schools are going to have to play a home game in New Mexico before high school sports start.
Coach Eaton, the rhetorical question of the year for you. How badly do you want it?
Well, I want it as much as the kids do. And when I see how much time and effort, energy they and their families have invested in those days where mentally we've been just strung along, emotionally we're told this, and then in the next week it changes, and we just want to make a decision and go with it. And seeing the perseverance and toughness from the kids and families from not just Sandia, every school district, it's incredible. The support we have seen from Las Cruces, from Rio Rancho, from Santa Fe. They're like, we don't want to play without you guys. we want to join you. And so those days you wake up and you're frustrated, or you want to blame others, instead of saying, all right, what do I need to do today to get better and then help these kids get better? Because it's about moving forward and controlling what you can and staying ready for that moment. So you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. And I think everybody that wants to play sports, we've been doing what we need to do to prepare to stay ready for this moment. Because after a year of no playing, I just think it's sort of like being in a dream almost, Henry. Like we're trying to wake up and go, is this real? Are we actually going to do the things that we remembered and we loved, and why we do what we do? I'm not here at this school if it wasn't for being a baseball coach and involved in the game. So it's about giving back. It's about truly having this opportunity with this program and this class of seniors. This is what we've been thinking about for 4 years. Sandia has not won a state title in over 40 years. And when you got Jacob Kamatz on the mound, that by itself puts us in the mix for making some history. So
Wow.
just seeing it, Henry. We just need to see it happen.
You're in the coaching box. You're down a run. You got two guys on base, and you're in the coaching box, one out, and you give the hit and run. And your right-handed hitter pokes one deep right center field in the corner, bottom of the seventh. Here comes one run. The game's tied. Here comes the other. It's going to be a close call. Dive. Safe. You win. How badly do you miss that scene?
Oh, Henry, you got me fired up right now. Just thinking of playing, anything. I mean, just the sound of people, of kids laughing, of cheering. I mean, just that sound. It's we know we remember what it sounds like, but until we actually hear it again, I think it's sort of like when we've had these, a limited group so far, and just, wow. I mean, even though we're limited in what we can do, we're going to take advantage of all of our opportunities right now. And it's arguably the greatest time in our lives right now. We're going through something no one ever imagined, and then to make it through, which is what we are. We're all going to make it through this, and to play again. And then when we finally are on the field, what it's going to do, not just for the kids, for everybody, for the city, for the state. We need to see our kids back and representing, and just seeing them happy again. Seeing that it's about the kids.
Chris, you're one of our brightest, youngest coaches in New Mexico. Love your attitude. Man, what a player you've been in your athletic past. And your brother, Michael. Wow, what a story the Eaton family has been. And we pray that your dream will come true real soon. Thank you for being with Henry T today.
Well, Henry, thanks for your time, and thanks for all you do for us. And we're all one community, so what you've done is invaluable, and we appreciate it. Thank you, Henry.
Keep up that great work as a broadcaster. Love your work. And say hi to the great Joe O'Neill. He is Mr. Radio. Nobody knows that business as well as him. He is a champion in our industry. Say hello to Jumpin' Joe O'Neill, okay?
Yeah, 3 p.m. first pitch, Oregon State Lobos. So hopefully everybody tunes in. I'll definitely say hi to Joe.
God bless you, man. Take care.
Thanks, Henry.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today with Jim Ciccarello and Chris Eaton. And we say thank you to Alden down at ProView, and Jimmy Tran, our producer, and all our sponsors for making this happen. Thanks to you for watching every day. Coming soon, another chapter of Henry T's great comeback. I'll share that with you next time we meet. Have a great day. See you real soon. God bless all of you. And let's get the kids back in school and back on the field. See you later. Take care.